And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Doorstock. My name is Bach. Joining me on the show, as always, he's back. He was gone
I'm
last
back,
week,
baby.
but he's returned. It's Mr. MagicHelmet. Mitch, where were you last week, and how could you do me like that? You
I
you
was
made me
too
work with
busy.
Darth Mike.
Yeah, I know it's terrible, right? I'm sorry I did that to you. Yeah, I was too busy on a private jet going to Michigan to help my dad take out the dock for our boat. Unfortunately, the season's over to go out the boat on the lake. But yeah, you know what? It was a nice day away from work. You know, I needed it, but yeah, sorry you had to work with Mike. I know
Yeah, that's
it's
brutal.
tough. It's literally the worst.
Now, was it actually a private jet, or was it made private because no one else was on it?
No, it was a private jet. My dad, his boss basically buys into a portion of a plane, and then he gets a certain amount of hours per year, and he doesn't use them as much as he used to. So my dad basically gets them at a cheaper price than normal.
You're just out here just sending
Just
out
flexing
$100
hard,
bills.
you
Yeah,
know. Check out my Instagram. I got some pictures for you. You
Were
know,
you wearing
it's
Supreme
totally
hoodies the
my
whole
money
way?
that I spent. No, I was not. I was tempted to, but I didn't. But Sophie was a fantastic crew member, by the way.
She went
She
too?
was great on the plane. Yeah, yeah. She got her own seat and everything.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she was. I mean, she's normally a pretty relaxed dog. I didn't know how she would handle it just because the plane would be somewhat loud. But she was great. She was just chilling. Like, hey, where's my? You know, so who's got a drink for me? You know,
Dude,
where's my peanuts?
my dog throws up and poops in the car if it's over a 20-minute ride. And your dog's
Yeah,
out here getting on airplanes. Like,
yeah. She's living the life, man. You know, we got to make up for lost time when she before. You know, I don't think she was treated very well before I got her. So you know, we're making up for lost time for her.
now, looking at what we want to talk about this week, obviously there's been a lot going on in the world of CS. We've seen what's going on with ESIC and the coaching scandal and the MDL match fixing scandal. Apparently, the coaching scandal is ready to come to a close as they're prepared to make some announcements on Monday, the 28th. So I'm waiting for that one patiently to see how many coaches are going to get caught up in the scandal. We've
Yeah.
also got some other things going on as well, like player transitions and moves. We've even got some potential workings of one of the long fabled maps in competitive Counter-Strike. I don't know if you saw that they are
Tuscan.
finally working on Tuscan, so we will get Tuscan back potentially once and for all. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. What we're going to talk about today is the drastic effects that COVID has had on the scene. And we'll start first by this with this story about Vitality, who's looking to add a sixth player, and the main reason for wanting to find a sixth player is because the team is just worn out. They need additional players to just kind of offset the workload that's been going on thanks to COVID.
Yeah, I mean, just looking at the article right now, there's a ton of online content that's happening right now. It's, you know, I think it was already pretty saturated before, but I feel like the amount of tournaments that you guys have to play in are either the same or more. And, you know, a lot of it is, well, number one, you can't really go anywhere. You're kind of stuck in your house. Obviously, it's going to be maybe a little bit different from NA to EU. But, you know, you can't really go out, enjoy yourself when you have a little bit of downtime. You're kind of stuck at home. And when you're basically playing CS all day, you know, that's going to grind you down. I know you and I as casters, you know, the schedule can be, you know, pretty tough. You know, I've worked 16-hour days, 18-hour days for some lands, and it can be brutal, man. You know, most people think, you know, hey, you know, you guys are living the life. You're casting at these lands, or you're playing in these lands, and you know that's what everybody would love to do. They'd love to have your job, but you know, there's some drawbacks to that, and a part of that is getting burnt out because the amount of time you have to dedicate to it, and not as much time to be able to have a little bit of downtime. It's tough.
There's many misconceptions about the world of professional Counter-Strike, both from a player perspective and a talent perspective. People think that, oh, players just play the game and it's a lot of fun, and they are paid ridiculous sums of money. That is true.
Yeah.
And that's part of what they're paid for, is the fact that they are just working constantly. It is a constant grind. It never seems to slow down. And same could be said for talent. You know, being a member of the on-screen talent for CS is exhausting to a certain degree, depending on what level you're at. If you're at a high level like Henry G was before he stepped away, it's just nonstop event to event to event. And people are like, yeah, but you get to travel the world and see all these cool places and talk about the video game. Like, if your opinion of traveling the world is going from an airport to a hotel and then a hotel to a studio, then yeah, we see all over the place because that's all we get to do at these events.
Yep.
You know, it's airport to hotel, hotel to venue, venue to hotel, over and over and over again until the event's over, and then hotel to airport, rinse, repeat. Might get to go home for 2 to 3 days depending on the next event or what you're working, or you might not. You might just go straight from there to the next one. There was a possibility where I was going to have to go from Vegas to Brazil to Sydney in like a 3-week span. Like I would have had 2 days between the one, overlap on the other one, so I would have left from one country to the other. And it would have been great. I'm not going to say
it sounds great,
awesome.
right?
It sounds awesome. You're like, oh man, I get to go to Australia and I get to go to Brazil. And I did get to go to Brazil, but I didn't get to go to Sydney. But like, as I look back on that, I'm like, man, that would have been like ridiculous. Like I would have been so exhausted and jet lagged because I would have been flying from where I live on the East Coast to Vegas and then to Brazil, which is back again on East Coast time where I was, and then all the way over to Australia. It's just like a back and forth juggle. And that was just a small sample size of what people in this community deal with between the players.
And you're living out of a
and
suitcase.
Yeah, you are. And that's what happens with a lot of these players and with talent. That's why they have really nice suitcases, and I don't. I have crap suitcases because I don't have to do this as much. Now, while Vitality was looking to add a player, they're not the only ones that are actually looking to do it. If you look at the bottom of the article, they're the latest to do it, but obviously Astralis was first. Astralis was one of the first teams to do it, partially because some of the players needed a break. And this was pre-COVID that they had burnout, just because of the frequency of LAN events. Now that we've transitioned to online, like the separation of work and life is very difficult for everyone right now because my work time is spent on my computer, and sometimes my casual time is also spent on my computer, and I have a phone so anyone can reach me. So, like, it blurs the lines really difficult. Working from home can be brutal. I did it for 4 straight years before starting with Nerd Street. So, I remember, like, just that juggle of having to handle working from home. Actually, I did it for 6 years, excuse me. So, it was tough. There would be days where people would reach out to me. It's like 9 p.m., and they're like, hey, I need help. I'm like, how do I tell them I can't help them? My computer's 5 feet away from me. I'm already on it.
And it shows you're online, right?
Yeah. So there's that, and then like from a player's perspective, they're practicing CS, they're having matches in CS, and then for fun, they kind of want to play CS. They like the game that much, and it's resulting in this crazy burnout. Looking at the other teams, by the way, ones that have come up, Cloud9 and Furia have mentioned that they are going to have an active 6th player. Furia will get that one very soon. Cloud9 will do it as they continue to announce the juggernaut of a team that they're building. Potentially in quotes, juggernaut. We don't really know what to expect.
Colossus, right?
Yeah,
Colossus,
that's what they're saying,
Cloud9.
Colossus.
Yeah.
Now, you're seeing the after effects of this on another player. We'll scroll all the way up because for some reason it took me to the comments.
This is a big story, too.
Wow, look at this. Look how many comments on this one. Thing is, this shows you the opinions of people in the community in relation to player burnout. So, I scrolled for a while to get all the way back up to the top. Obo decides that it's time to step away from complexity and take a break, largely in part due to the fact that he was getting burnt out and he was stuck in Europe. 17-year-old stuck in another continent during a pandemic. He just wants to come home and see his family. It was not exactly the best way to handle it. He kind of was like, peace, I'm out. But I don't blame him, being there for as long as he was and dealing with what he's had to deal with and seeing the window of opportunity potentially closing. He had to get out.
Yeah, it just seemed like he kind of hit the eject button on, living out there and working on the team. I'm hoping complexity can keep him in some sort of fashion or get him to a team that makes it a little bit more reasonable for his work, the amount of time that he's going to be working, and something a little bit closer to home. And if Jason Lake's the leader of complexity, I'm sure he's going to make it work out. So Obo's comfortable with whatever it is that he's doing. But it's enough of an ask for adults, like Henry as a caster, or these players that are flying across the country, constantly busy. But this kid's 17 years old, and that's a lot of pressure. Number one, to be a top player, top 5 team player. and just show up and play well every time. I mean, you're going to get a lot of hate when you play bad, and just everything associated with being a pro player. There's a lot of, there are some negative aspects to it. And for a kid that's 17 years old, that's going to be pretty difficult to handle, let alone it being, difficult for an adult to handle. So, I have no issue with him doing this. This is what he thinks is best. I'm sure he spoke with his family about it, and they probably expressed, their support for whatever it is that he wanted to do. So I'm glad that he felt comfortable enough to make this decision. I'm sure it wasn't easy for him, the process, because, he had a lot on his shoulders. But, I don't have any issue with him doing this, and I hope it ends up that he's on another great team. He did a really good job helping get Complexity to being a top 5 team. So yeah, I mean, he's a 17-year-old kid, and you can't expect him to live across the country for an extended period of time and not miss home and kind of the comforts that come with that.
Looking at the comments, though, you can kind of see this disconnect between the players and community. It's a bunch of people who don't understand. Like, it was a joke. Obo is leaving Complexity because he match fixed, I think. He wants to quit international CS and stay at home. Like, people are just like making things up. They're not really taking into consideration just the reality of being in the situation that he was in. People are like, or he's just a kid. But like, look how long these comments go on for. This just goes on, and it's all these armchair quarterbacks with all these opinions that don't know anything about the background of what's going on. And it just continues forever. My God, it just never stops.
Yeah, almost 700.
Yeah.
Oh, it is over 700. Wow.
To be fair, I get some of the criticism. Informing your employer or the last minute, like, hey, by the way, I'm leaving. See ya. Like, that's not exactly the best way to handle things. The team was trying to find an elegant solution, but I think Obo just had a window of opportunity, and he took advantage of it, so he decided to head home, which kind of illustrates the effect that this has had on a young player, that he sees that as a reasonable way to get out. Normally, even though he's young, players would obviously express dissatisfaction, wanting to get traded away, wanting to return home, whatever. They wouldn't just snap their fingers and go. The fact that he did that illustrates just how much turmoil he's been under trying to just make this all work. Now, we talk about the fact that, the work-life balance is difficult, but with all these leagues running on, too, we saw more recent complaints coming in from Stewie mentioning that 10 a.m. matches were a little bit tough. I'll be honest. I don't side with the players so much. I understand the frustration over a schedule shift, have to adjust from one thing to the other, but the matches were announced completely for the whole season on August 29th. There was time to change your schedule around and adjust. I get that it's difficult and it's frustrating and it's annoying, but it's part of the price you pay. When the NFL sends players to London to play that one game a year in London, or I think it's actually 2 games now, it was tough on those players, but you don't see them going to Twitter and complaining. They would go to the NFL and say, hey, this isn't going to work. We need to change these times. We need more downtime. Or, you look at other sports where players have less downtime between matches, and they just make it work. That's how it goes. You just got to adjust. That's part of what you're being compensated for. That's part of your pay. You're not just being paid to be really good. You're being paid to be really good and deal with one of the more grueling schedules. Yeah. Now, the final piece we want to look at as well is actually... We'll hit the button here because I didn't do that. Derp.
Derp. What are you doing,
right,
man?
It's not working right. Hold on. Let's hit the button again. Now it's working. All right. Awake since 7 a.m. This is bleeping torture. Sorry. Bimus talking about not just the grind to be a player, but his grind as a human being. We've seen this in the past where players have had more going on in life than just video games. So he says, I'm not blaming or crying to anyone, just saying that it's very hard to perform and focus when you're waking up for school at 7 a.m., home at 15, then playing 8 hours full focus, nonstop CS, which ended at 2 a.m. from my time. So basically, he's sleeping maybe 5 hours, more likely 4, every night while he's doing this.
Yeah, I am not a fan of that. That's a tough schedule that you got to work with. 5 hours is not nearly enough. I know people can do it. They do it over, a while and they get used to it, but you shouldn't be doing that. You should be getting minimum 6 hours of sleep, if not 7 or 8. I think the advised number is 8, whether or not, that many people actually do that. I don't know. I try to get 8 hours of sleep, but not only is it the lack of sleep, but just the amount of time you have to be performing at a high level, in these matches, but also, if he's in school or has a job, he has to do that well too, and the lack of sleep is really going to affect his ability to do both of those. So if there's some sort of adjustment that can be made so he can get a little bit more extra sleep, that would be great. But I can't imagine performing at a high level that often on that little amount of sleep. I might just like my sleep. I could be one of those people.
This is also true. Like I actually had responded to it myself and said, when I worked season 5 of ESL Pro League, I was an analyst on the desk with Stunna as our host. I would wake up at 4:30 in the morning to work my East Coast job, because at this point I wasn't full time in esports. So I would wake up at 4:30 and I would get on for my day job. And I would work my day job until 2:00. At that point we had a conference call for my day job. I was getting dressed for studio work at 2:00. And then I would hop into an Uber, head to the studio. We would have 3 p.m. makeup, and then 4 p.m. we would have rehearsals, and then show would start, I believe, at 5 p.m., maybe 6. So we would run the show until about 9 or 10, depending on how many matches we had that night. At 10 o'clock, we'd head back to the hotel. We'd have a drink and a food, because at this point we're hungry. Even though we ate dinner, we're still hungry. It's been a couple hours. So we'll have like some fries or something to hold us over. And then we'll go to bed probably around midnight, and I would wake up the next day and do it all over again.
Do it all over again, yeah.
I was originally supposed to do the entire season. We won't get into why that fell apart. This is why ESL infamously fired me live on air. It was a big joke.
I didn't even see that.
You've never seen that? Oh, that's like that was what I was known for a while. It's the guy that got fired live on air. It was a meme. We knew that I was not coming back the next week. I was being replaced, I think, by Vendetta, if I'm not mistaken. So
okay, yeah.
It was kind of weird. It was supposed to be the full season. It fell apart. It did the first 2 weeks. In a way, I was kind of relieved, because after 2 weeks of that, I was like, I don't know if I could do this for like a whole month. That's how long it was supposed to be. And I was flying home on the weekends. I wasn't staying in LA. So I would fly in on a Sunday night or a Monday, and I would do that. Or I think I would fly in Sunday, and I'd do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, fly home on a Saturday, fly back on a Sunday. It was kind of silly to do that, to be perfectly honest, but that's the way it was handled. And I can't imagine doing that for the period of an entire season, which I think was like a month and a half, 2 months. Now, if I was there the whole season, I think they would have found an alternative solution, like putting me out of a hotel and putting me into an apartment or something. But still,
yep.
I mean,
or hire an extra person if possible, so you guys can split the time, so you can get a little bit more sleep. But that's insane to number one, do that for 2 weeks. But then if you were to be expected to do that for another month or month and a half or whatever the timeline would be, like, that's just not sustainable. People like you and I think people like me, we're willing to put in that work, and we're going to do it regardless of how it affects us. But after a while, like it's not sustainable. I wouldn't be able to do that for 2 months, 4 months, whatever that time would be. I have the work ethic to do it, but it's just not healthy. So it's a tough position to be in, because you want to be able to perform for these, big companies. And in a lot of cases, there's people that are trying to make a name for themselves, get a lot of experience under their belt. So they're willing to do things that they're willing to go beyond what they normally would, in order to, appease these people and, get your name out there. But, there has to be a line that's drawn.
Yeah. Well, ultimately, I mean, what it boils down to, and this is something that I think everyone that's, at home working currently and going through this pandemic with us together, this is something we can all learn. You need to set hard boundaries for yourself.
Yep.
Burnout is going to be a thing for everyone if you don't have boundaries. Learn that when your work day ends, your work day ends. This is something
I'm still working on that.
Yeah, so am I. Like, when that clock, set an alarm for yourself if you have to, and when that clock hits, you are done. Stop what you're working on, save the files, whatever the case may be, and step away. If you're in the middle of the call, say, hey, I gotta go. I'm stepping out of the office. Treat your office no different than you would treat an actual office. There are people who count down the minutes to leave work, and then those same people will work 20 to 30 minutes late every single day because they lose track of time and they lose track of the fact that, hey, the workday is over. Set those boundaries for yourself. Don't get on early. Shut your phone off. Actually kind of make it seem like it's in the office, even if it's in your own house. And then it's also important, too, to not use your free time to go back and be like, well, I got nothing else to do, so I might as well get my work done. Find something
Yeah.
else. Do a puzzle. I know,
Read.
like,
Read a book.
Read a book. Watch a movie. Literally anything, so you don't just burn yourself out. Even as someone who does not read books, I'm not a book person. I never have been. Find something that you can do that is not the same as what you do for work. And it's also important, too, I think, this is a personal thing. If you sit in front of a computer all day for work, try not to sit in front of a computer all day for pleasure. Maybe it's just me. I love playing games. I love computer games. I always have. But I'm trying to not do that as much because I don't want to just live in front of my computer and blame COVID for everything that happens to me.
Yeah, I haven't really been playing as many games as I used to. As you know, I played a ton of CS, like 15,000 hours worth, and a whole bunch of hours in a bunch of other games. But I need to get away from my computer and do literally anything else. Like yesterday, I went it was really nice and sunny out. I went in the backyard, took my dog, and just literally laid on the patio for 15 minutes just to enjoy the breeze and get away from the screen, because it can be exhausting just staring at it all day, and not having any change of scenery. So even just going for a walk, getting outside, enjoying the weather a little bit, that can be helpful. And if you're a player or if you're a caster, make your voice known if you're having issues with these type of things, because in some situations, the people that you would be telling this to, whoever the management is, they might not know. They might have a good idea that, hey, these players could be getting burnt out, but if nobody's vocalizing that to them, in some cases, it might be hard to identify that these players are struggling for them. So just make your voice known whenever possible if you are struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with that, we are going to go ahead and throw things to a close, guys. Thank you so much for watching the show. If you like what we do, we're live every Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. NERDST Gamers on all three. Like, follow, subscribe, whichever one is applicable for the platform. Make sure you do it. You can also find us on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, NERDST Gamer on those as well. If you just want to see all the dank memes that our social media manager likes to post out, and also get some good information about what's coming down the pipeline in regards to esports journeys for amateur competitors around the United States. Guys, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.